All right, welcome guys to another episode of the Hyperface podcast. Today we're joined with Adam. Adam, thank you. Nice to have you.
Absolutely.
And Kiriti.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So Adam is, I want to say, the founder of Living Life Pain-Free.
Live lean, pain-free.
Oh, what? Yeah. Live lean, pain-free.
Live lean, pain-free.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Close enough.
LLPF. So I was like, live life. All right. It's awesome. Nice to have you. Maybe
Absolutely.
Introduce yourself too.
Yeah, totally. So, like you said, my name's Adam. So I've kind of been in the fitness rehab space for, I guess if you include school, probably about 10 years now. I first went to school in 2011, actually for nutrition. Mm-hmm. I did a 2-year nutrition diploma at George Brown College in Toronto. Mm-hmm. And my plan originally was to become a dietitian, mm-hmm. but funny enough, I'd always been interested in working out. I did weight training classes in high school. It was always an interest of mine, mm-hmm. but not something I ever thought about teaching people or working with clients on the fitness side. I was always kind of interested in nutrition, that counseling side. Mm-hmm. Then I did a few placements in my college. Like at the end of college, you do a field placement. And I realized that most of the jobs were like not actually working with people. It was ordering a lot of ready-made foods for retirement homes. And I thought to myself, yeah, this is boring. I don't want to do this. My brother actually, he was trying to become a physiotherapist, and he told me about a fitness program at Humber College. So I decided to kind of switch gears, did that for 2 years. Mm-hmm. So we're at 4 years of school now. Really enjoyed that, but I didn't want to just work with, general fitness, weight loss. I wanted the ability to, work with people with special populations or injuries, diseases, more that sort of exercise physiology side. Mm-hmm. So I ended up getting my kinesiology degree, did 2 more years after that.
Question, because kinesiology is always something like, what is kinesiology? Is it learning how to move your body properly, basically?
Right. It's definitely an umbrella term. Yeah. I view it as the science of movement and performance, how the human body moves. Now, under kinesiology, there's a whole bunch of other topics, right? You have exercise physiology, exercise prescription, basic nutrition concepts, biomechanics. There's many, many things. And the 4-year degree essentially gives you bits and pieces of all of that.
Yeah. So that kind of complements your nutrition and your other knowledge, right? Where you have the body and the food.
100%.
The fuel source,
Yeah, because any person that you get in front of you, you always have to look at all aspects of them, how they move, what's their strength workouts like, how's their nutrition, their overall habits. So did that degree, and then I spent the next few years really just working in the field. I definitely got good experience on the rehab side of things. I saw a ton of backs, necks, shoulders, people in car accidents, people that had workplace injuries. I did that for a while. I did workplace injury management for a little bit, where I would go to job sites and sort of watch how somebody worked, how they moved throughout their day, how bad their posture was, gave them recommendations. So did a whole bunch of that, but I always kept a little bit of clients on the side for personal training while I had those full-time jobs in rehab. And then I guess we get to the pandemic, and gyms closed.
Oh yeah,
right. Obviously.
So was that while you were in school, or you finished school and now?
So finished school 2017, and then I guess I was working full time 2017. I did my kinesiology license here in the province. Yeah. Fall of 2017, and pretty much got hired right after that. Yeah. So 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, up until pandemic, I'm working full time. I'd switched jobs, I think, once between a couple different companies. Yeah. But seeing clients, or I guess patients, whatever the company calls them, backs, necks, basic exercise program, and then that was my 9 to 5 thing. And then I also had some clients in the evening or on like a weekend sometimes, just for basic personal training, because I wanted to keep that training side of things as well.
Yeah.
Just wanted to ask you a quick question. Like when I went to your TikTok page, the first thing I noticed is on your bio side, it states that get lean after injuries.
Right.
Could you explain me, did you face any injuries before, and which led you to believe, what you can do after the post injuries and how you...
100%.
Yeah.
So I guess it's two sides of it.
Okay.
Myself, but also all the patients that I saw over the years. So I'll talk about myself first. So I've had a few injuries. I actually have a torn meniscus right now that I'm working around in my workouts. It probably will need surgery at some point. Hopefully not for a few years.
How did it happen?
Squatting.
Okay.
Yeah, barbell squatting, knee kind of went out a little bit. I felt an instant pain. did some imaging, the meniscus. They say it's a partial tear. It doesn't bother me when I'm just kind of going around doing everyday life walking, but in really deep positions, it will bother me. Deep positions with rotation, it'll bother me. So there's certain exercises I have to modify for that. But the biggest thing for me was I got pretty sick in 2016. So when I was still in school, I ended up getting a virus that kind of came out of nowhere, and it ended up leaving me with chronic nerve pain, like systematic nerve pain. It would just be random in my face, in my legs, in my arms. So I went through the whole kind of medical thing, like, well, let's do nerve tests, let's do this, let's get blood work, let's see what we can find. And they never found anything. Like, there's kind of this mystery virus happened, and then I was left with these nerve symptoms. And then I went back to the regular, okay, let's just try to go back to the gym. Let's try to do squats, deadlifts, all the stuff I was used to doing, and it just wasn't working. I would beat myself up worse. So I had to find ways to, okay, I know this is important because of all what I'm learning in school about how we always want to maintain strength and muscle because the longer we're out of it, we start to lose muscle, we lose strength, we atrophy, all that bad stuff happens. So I had to learn how to essentially work out and fatigue my muscle, but not my nervous system. And that sort of was the bread and butter for building the program and getting lean after injury, working around pain and injury, and still getting your fitness back.
So just let me touch back on that nerve pain. Was that nerve pain just random? So you just wake up, or was it like relative? You said knees and arms, right? Let's take a look at, for example, arms. Yeah. Like weakness in arms, tingling and
burning, but it was random. Like there was no, it wasn't like a sciatica where there was an actual pattern. It was, you'd wake up one day, it would be around your lips and your face. Another day it would be down your arms, and it was just random, and a whole bunch of fatigue that came with that.
So do you still suffer from this nerve pain, or just somewhere down the line?
It lasted probably until about 2017, until I graduated. And then I had one flare up a couple years ago. So 2021, for like a month, I had a little bit of a flare up, and then it kind of went away again.
But to
this day, they've never found anything, but it is something I monitor in my workouts, and I can kind of get a little bit of a sense now of when am I overdoing it, when is sleep slacking, when do I need to pick up habits so that it doesn't go down that path again. I might get an answer at some point, but I've learned to kind of work around it and manage it in my training, and obviously with lifestyle as well. So
yeah.
Perfect. Right. We'll dive into weight loss. I know it's
100%.
It's a topic, right? And when I say weight loss, not fat loss, maybe it's not interchangeable for sure. Yeah. Right? It's not interchangeable, but weight loss is because most people, probably most clients that you face, even with injuries, I'm guessing they're going to come in and tell you, I want to lose weight.
100%. Right? Yeah.
Irrespective of if it's fat, if it's healthy, if it's non-healthy. So maybe let's start off with, what are the biggest roadblocks that you see for a client?
So biggest roadblocks. So I guess the typical client I would work with, it's somebody that maybe they had a knee injury or they had a back injury. They've developed back pain just through life, right? Maybe it's not an incident where they were in an accident or they hurt their knee like I did. Maybe they're just at a desk all the time, and you do that for multiple years. You get a bit older. And then you go to do things like shovel your snow, or you just go to live basic life or do basic tasks. It might not even be a squat, but your back seizes up, and then they just kind of rinse and repeat the same cycle. Like, oh, I need to go to physio, I need a massage. Then they just go back, do their activities again, do it again. And then when their back is hurt, they sit around, they don't do much. And then what do? They eat, right? So as a result, a lot of them say, I was good until my back got hurt. I was good until my knee hurt. And then they put on the weight afterwards. It's typically the client that comes to me. Yeah. So I would say a roadblock in and of itself could be that their pain, that they don't know how to work around, or they don't have the education to. But also I would say our daily life is a roadblock nowadays, right? Everything's just so easy for us now. We don't, even if we want to eat fast food, we used to have to at least get in our car, go to a drive-through. Yeah. And if it's minus 20, we had to actually think, do I really want that McDonald's that bad? Yeah. Do I want to put on all this, my coat, everything, go outside and go to the drive-thru to get McDonald's? It sounds silly, but now you skip the dishes, Uber Eats, somebody can drop it off at the door.
It's funny because I was just having this conversation with my wife yesterday. Well, not necessarily about food, but how convenient it is now to spend money versus if you wanted to get a new pair of clothes, right? Oh, the baby, I want a new jacket, or I want whatever, this new H&M sweater. It used to be that you have to think about, okay, I have to get up, get to the car, get to the mall, browse for whatever is available,
Yeah.
try it on, and then buy it, come back home, and that's half your day gone. Now it's just as simple as, oh, I know I'm a large, or I know this, and you could see how detailed the descriptions are. So you know exactly which brand, what size, and you're just like, okay. And again, like you go to an H&M, for example, you don't find the blue color. You're going to have to go to another H&M. Oh, man.
Or you got to settle on.
Yeah, exactly. You got to settle. So then it becomes all this cycle of, is it really worth it? And it's the same with food, right? Is it really worth the trouble to do that? And you're like, you know what? I'm just going to open my fridge and eat whatever's inside. Or whatever. I'll batch all of this until I have an actual full need of things to make the trip.
Yeah.
And now it's just open, Amazon, open, skip, open.
Click to buy, really simple, right? I think those are a couple things. I really think the biggest roadblock, though, is psychological, mental, you want to say, like, their story that they tell themselves, I think is the biggest one. Because a lot of people I talk to, they don't necessarily have this sense that I can improve things. They think my life is just going to be this way. I hurt my knee's never going to be good. I'm just always going to be, or for XYZ reason, I can't do it. I'm too busy. I work too much. My kids take up too much of my time. I just can't be one of those fitness people.
Yeah.
That's probably the third and the biggest like psychological one I see is people just don't believe that they can change once they've gotten to a certain point.
And how do you break that down, maybe at a high level, obviously?
100%. So to break that down, this is why, like, what I do in my business is we do one-to-one direct coaching right now. So we don't have any memberships or, just workouts for people, because I want to really dig in with them and fix these problems and habits, because really fitness coaching is mindset coaching if you actually break it down. Because as you mentioned, like the barriers to weight loss. Weight loss on paper is extremely simple, right? You eat less than you take in, move more, focus on good quality proteins, good quality carbs, fruits, veggies. It's extremely simple, but why is it difficult for people? It's because of this, right? The stories they tell themselves or the limitations they put on themselves. So for you to sustain your results, anyone can lose weight. They can jump on a fad diet, cut out carbs, drastically reduce calories, and they can drop weight, but nobody can keep it off, right? 90% of people that lose weight gain it back for that reason, because they don't fix this up here. So that's what I want to do with my clients is while we're, optimizing their training, optimizing their nutrition, giving them a foundation of a meal template they can follow to keep things simple. We're really working on those habits most of all on calls or at weekly check-ins, so that we're working on building this a habit for them forever, so that once they're done the program, they're able to do this on their own and they have a better mindset going forward.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
I want to ask you this question is that you're more focused on the lean, I can say that, are you completely into the weight loss section, or are you thinking in the future that you're going to be thinking about more bulking side, how you're going to be lean mass, you can be increasing? Have you ever thought about doing?
Yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
I have thought about this, right? Because when you, for anyone maybe watching this that is a trainer or a coach, I'm sure you maybe have a few people in the audience that that's who they are as well. You sort of have to decide at the start, who am I going to target? Because in the online space, you guys know, it's extremely crowded.
Yeah.
The word niche is a sexy term nowadays. Like you have to sort of pick a demographic that you want your content to speak to. Otherwise, you're talking to nobody. So for me, obviously, I'm targeting with my kinesiology background, I'm targeting people that have had those injuries and have put on weight as a result. Most of them, their goal is not, I want to gain weight, I want to build muscle. Might that become their goal down the road? Perhaps, right? But I just noticed for me, like a lot of the people that were focused on, and this is more of a business thing, this is nothing against them as people, because we're all younger guys. We were younger at one point in our early 20s, maybe late teens. We all wanted to get shredded, gain weight, gain muscle. But what at that age, what are you also? You're likely probably broke. You're a student. You often can't afford a one-on-one coaching program.
But hear me out. When you're that young, you could get scot-free with all trash food. Yes. Versus as you age, that's much more difficult. So
100%.
You could see teenagers or, late teens and early 20s where you're either drinking on weekends, eating like garbage, and still growing bigger. You can't do that when you're in the 30s.
Yeah, it's literally like a cheat code at that age. Yeah. So I guess to answer your question, like if I guess it depends on the client. Like if I get a client and I've worked with them for 3, 6 months, even a year, and they're like, hey, you know what? And I actually have a guy like this right now. He actually had bicep surgery for like a non-related moving accident. So he's working with his physical therapist and we're building workouts around that. So his goal right now isn't gaining weight because he can't really lift that heavy or anything. But eventually he wants to. I've worked with him on and off for years, but I've been with him consistently probably for about 8 or 9 months now. So he has said to me like, hey, you know, before my injury, I was feeling pretty lean. I was feeling good. I definitely want to work on building muscle next, you know, if you can help me with that. So for him, I likely would make that switch. But I guess to loop it back, I'm probably not going to target my content towards that. But if I have a specific client that goes through the fat loss phase, they get leaner, they feel good, their body feels better, and then they want to build muscle, that's often a natural next step. I can do that, but I'm not necessarily putting my marketing towards that to bring someone in.
Nice.
That makes sense.
Okay. That's good.
You kind of touched on the mindset, right? So maybe pivoting, what is the most common reason or most common cause, I would say, that you see that people just stop halfway? Like they're doing okay. You see like, if this person continues down this path, that goal will be like blast through and succeeded. But then for some reason, or they stop.
So a client, like let's say like a client that I've worked with that is going good and then they fall off. That's what you mean, right?
They fall off,
So I would say that like that is going to happen because that's life, right? The reason I don't like these challenges like 75 hard or these like 30 days, it preaches perfection. Life is not perfect. Your kids get sick. You get sick. Work gets busy. Maybe you can't work out every single day or you can't have a perfect streak. What matters more is how you bounce back. So that's something I always talk about. So in my program, one of the ways we do that is we have goals, you know, training 3 times per week for strength, getting in, you know, 30 minutes of walking every day or whatever the goals are. Those are the goals, but then we also have fallback targets. So even if it's a crazy week where things are just upside down, if you can get 1 or 2 workouts in, that's still a win. So it's not the perfection mindset of, oh, I have to get 3. Like if you still get 2 workouts a week, and you do that for a year, you're still going to be ahead of like 70% of people that are always in this like on-off relationship with their fitness. So that's one way we do it, but also on the mindset side of things, like when we get on calls, talking about expectations and letting them know, listen, like you didn't get the place you got before you came to me in terms of, you know, your knee hurt, with the weight you put on, feeling bad about yourself, losing confidence as a result. That wasn't a linear process of getting there. So it's not going to be a linear process of getting back to where you want to be every single week. There is going to be ups and downs, but we often forget that part, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Can you tell me that as you mentioned that you provide the fitness diet plans and everything as well. So could you suggest like what are the 3 common supplements you have suggested to the people for your clients? Are you no to the supplements or you are into a little bit of supplements? If so, what are those 3 supplements?
So for each of my clients, I guess I should clarify, I do not give them meal plans to follow that says like eat XYZ. That's not something I do. I do give them examples. I will give them a template so they fill out, you know, what foods do you like to eat? Like there's a checkbox. What are your favorite proteins, carbs, fruits, veggies that you are already eating or like to eat? And then what I do is I have a spreadsheet. I build out sort of a starting target calorie and protein target for them. Carbs and fats, I don't really care that much about. Just nobody that I work with is going to be getting on a bodybuilding stage. As long as they're hitting a target range of calories and they're getting enough protein, they can really fill in the rest of their calories with carbs and fats because it's not, at the level that they're at, it's not that important. If they like more carbs, they can have them. If they like more fats, they can have them. I leave that up to them. But I give them an example of, okay, this is how you're going to hit these, but it is a template. The proteins can be swapped. The carbs can be swapped. This is not a meal plan you have to follow. I also give them like about a couple hundred calories or 10 to 20% of their calories for whatever they like. So that is flexible so we don't have risks of binges. For supplements, leading to your question, typically I do not recommend supplements for clients. I will give just like only the well-researched ones. So if there's somebody that has a really focused goal on strength, I can talk about creatine for them. And protein is more of a convenience thing. I will say, listen, or I'll notice if you're not getting enough protein, perhaps we can look at a supplement, but I always want a client to get 100 grams of protein from food before you add, like if I have some female clients, I'm looking at their log and it's like 60 grams of protein. Should I add a supplement? I'm not getting enough protein. I'm like, okay, let's get to 100 grams of protein with food first. and then you can add the supplement after that. So that's kind of my rule, is like if they're if it's a guy, for example, he's already getting 150, he wants 180, he's finding it hard, we can talk about supplement. But if you're already under 100 grams and you're not getting that through food, get that through food first before we talk about supplement. Is sort of my rule with that. And then most of the other ones, if you want like magnesium, all that stuff, I always say, listen, get blood work done, find out if you're deficient in vitamin D and magnesium, other than just guessing. Yes, we live in Canada. Likely, you're probably not hurt from vitamin D, especially because it's been cold since November, but it doesn't hurt to get your levels checked regardless. Like I'm a little hesitant at just throwing supplements at clients haphazardly.
So great. I was going to actually ask you on that blood work somewhere later on, but you brought it up. Blood work, right? One, where do you get it locally in Canada? Is it Life Labs? And
I use Life Labs, yeah.
Okay.
Very easy to get.
And what do you request? Because I think I tried asking my family doctor for blood work and he was just like, no. So it's not something your family doctor prescribes. You just go to...
So I do use my family doctor. He's very good. I do a minimum once a year checkup.
Okay.
And we hit all the major markers, right? All the glucose, cholesterol, all that stuff, hemoglobin A1C. There's a couple tests that aren't covered in the province here by OHIP. So I had to pay a little bit for a vitamin D test. Obviously, testosterone, you'll likely have to pay for. They don't cover that. You want to get that one as a guy. So it might cost you a little bit, but I would say the most important thing is like having a family doctor that values those checkups, not when you're symptomatic, but hey, I'm feeling good, but I want to make sure there's nothing. Like even now, when I
as well, right?
Yeah, even now when I go, like my vitamin B12 has been high for many years, but the reason you want to get it at least every year is, okay, it was high last year, it's still around the same, there's been no change, right? My white blood cell count also sometimes drops low, but when I went this year, it came up a bit. So you want to know where your norms are, because you want to compare your norms versus like your numbers from your norms the last few years, rather than just a one-time blood work of, oh my gosh, this is low, but maybe that's just your normal. So I think it's a combination. Like you should have a family doctor that values those regular checkups and not just somebody that will give you blood work because you're not feeling well.
Yeah.
Is what I would say to that.
So vitamin D, testosterone, and then, when you go back to getting a blood work, do you just ask for a complete panel, or are there specific things that you want to? So let's say someone's watching, cool, I want to get my blood work done. They go in and then just get like, because blood work is, there's not one blood work. There's like CBC blood work. There is like a hemoglobin. So you might just go in and get like CBC hemoglobin, and then he doesn't actually they don't look at kidney function, so creatinine, and they don't look at B12. They don't look at, so what do you request when you go in, or what are you looking for?
Typically, I get the basic panel, and then I'll get vitamin D. Those sometimes ask as well. My family doctor will say, we can do vitamin D, but it might be a little bit of an extra cost. I'll always say, yes, it's my health. I'm going to spend the $20. Like I'll save money somewhere else.
Yeah.
Obviously for guys, testosterone's a big one. There really is no limit to how deep you can go. I used to go to a naturopath a few years ago where we did a few other extensive ones. I think it's everybody should do the basics, but then it's up to you. Like if you want to go super deep and find out your sensitivities or things like that, you can. But at minimum, I think most people would benefit from just doing the basic check. But if you're going to add any, definitely I would say for Canada, vitamin D, but also testosterone for guys. Obviously, I'm not going to give advice to women what they should check for. Not versed in that area, but for guys, that testosterone, vitamin D, I would say in addition to the basic panel.
Yeah, I think vitamin D could be a general blanket because it affects mood, depression, and so on. So it could be
absolutely
not testosterone, obviously, for the females.
Totally.
Yeah. So could you explain me that I know you have your own business and everything, but the first thing the business people try to notice is that how do you approach your client? One is the trust process. People like to trust you. Is it you're getting your traffic from organic from your TikTok? Is it from your networkings? You have it. How did you start up with this thing? Because one of the biggest thing you notice is nobody approaches you, or else how you're going to be approaching them, how they're going to be trusting you, and especially if it is related to health, it's super tough to approach people,
100%. I think that's an interesting topic.
Yeah.
I would say I'm never going to say I'm an expert at it because it's always changing, right? The platforms are always changing. The buyer is learning along the way. People are more comfortable with social media now, but as a result, they're also more skeptical of like who's just trying to sell them, right? So I would say it's always going to be know, like, and trust. Somebody has to know you, like you, and trust you before they buy from you. So how do you build those things? Well, if at all, if you're ever in doubt, show up is my rule. Like, show up if you're ever in doubt. So for March, I think I posted every single day.
Okay.
Now, I'm not so much focused on like how many likes is my post getting, how many views is it getting, but am I showing up for people that are already following me? Because at some point, this is how I think of it, at some point, weather's getting warmer or something might happen in their life where they say, you know what, I need to make a change. I need to improve myself. I need to take this seriously. I've put on weight. I want to lose it. I want to feel better. My body hurts. I want to get back to, I want to do better for myself, whatever that looks like for them. If they're thinking about that and I'm showing up every day, I'm going to be in their mind, hey, I've been following this guy for a while. Maybe I'll check out his page or his bio, see what his program is, or maybe I'll message him, or maybe things like that. I'll vote on his poll, right? So showing up is something you should do if you're ever in doubt. It never hurts to show up, would be my thing. But in terms of how I would get clients, if that's kind of what you're asking, my first clients were people that I knew in person. So people I used to train in person, I kind of took some of them online, was how I sort of started on my own business. I did work for a friend for a while who had his own coaching business, so he would give me clients. I don't work with him anymore. We kind of went our separate ways. I've only done my own thing for a little while now. But in terms of like, if somebody follows you, how do they become a client? That sort of process, that nurturing process, I guess is where I'll wrap up on this topic. So showing up's important, like I said, but I always approach them trying to give value first. I'm never just going to hop in their DMs and be like, hey, what are your fitness goals? Right? Like,
I've had people do that. And I'm like, no.
So what I do is, like, if somebody follows you, they're already somewhat warm. They're like, you know what, I see this guy's content's value, so I will typically reach out after a few days, or Monday I start to go through and see, okay, who are my new followers? Who can I reach out to and just say hi, just say, hey, what's up? Because obviously I have a few hundred posts now. They might not necessarily know all my posts or like what. So I'll just kind of say, hey, thanks for the follow, really appreciate it. I love to help new followers, point them in the right direction or give them a couple of my free trainings. Is there anything particular that you're most interested in health and fitness, or that you're, I don't like to use the word working towards, but like that you want to learn more about? So they'll mention, like losing weight, or what the best diet is, and I'll maybe send them or DM them one of my old nutrition posts or something like that, or one of my free ebooks. And then you're just follow up in a couple days, how'd you find it? Or, is this something how long you've been working towards this? You just get the conversation going. And then you always ask permission. Once you've been going for a while, they're warmed up, they've taken a free guide, hey, just, curious, is this something have you ever worked with anyone before? Like, it seems you only do this when they're warm, not when they're still cold, because it's a big turn off. But, you've mentioned a lot, you've really opened up. Is this something you're seriously looking at fixing or have dealt with for a significant amount of time? And then you can just ask them, like, you don't want to go too long either, just chatting in the DMs endlessly. But once they're warm, it's okay to ask them, hey, would you like some help with that? And then I would typically get them on, I don't call it like a sales call, but like a consult, just to see if it's a fit, because I'm always looking, is it a good fit? Like, you don't want to get someone in your program that's not a good fit, because it's not worth the money they gave you, right? It's headaches, it's stress.
I ask you this question is that I saw your reaction with the guy who was having an interaction with his client or something. I don't know his name.
I'm trying to remember the post.
So that's the only reaction I saw him, because I saw the post before itself. His on Instagram, like, he tries to target the chiropractors, I believe so, or the people he tried to sell things.
Right.
And that's what caught me into you, like, reacting to the video. And
okay, I remember the one now. Yes, Emmanuel, I think is his name. Emmanuel, shout out to him, by the way. He's watching.
So that's what, like, I like his style of talking, being patient and enough.
100%.
So that's what I wanted to know from your side as well. How is your perspective, and like, someone who is getting into the business of something like that, how you're going to be advising to the people to approaching? Because the first call is the biggest. First 3 calls are like, the biggest thing. The other thing is, like, word of mouth is really important for.
Referrals are huge, because they're
referrals are
already
used.
warm, right? They
That's
know
how you
someone
start
that.
of your business. So that's what I want to be asking you for.
100%. Referrals in the beginning is great, but at all times, I think that's something I need to get better at too, is like asking for referrals more. It's not something I've done too often, but I will always give a client probably like $100 or $200 bonus. Like if they know someone that, has had knee pain, back pain, shoulder pain for years, and they, bring somebody on or they refer someone, I'll always give them $100 or $200 as like a thank you. So you think they'd be incentivized to do it more, but I think we as business owners and coaches have to ask more because everyone's busy, they have lives, they're not going to just do it willingly. And I think if you ask people, they're more than happy to, but that's something I definitely need to put in the schedule somewhere to remind myself, because it's not something I've been great at from the business side of things doing up till now.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, we're going to pivot to 3 questions, and then we're going to end part 1, and then we're going to start with part 2, which is going to be lightning and probably a closer, right? So we like to do 2 parts. So
Awesome.
we'll get to the 3 questions, right? On training pain-free. The 3 questions are going to be on shoulders, back, and knees, right? We have a live example here where
I have a shoulder pain,
Okay.
yeah, on right side there's a minor tear symptoms, and there's on the left side there's a bit of bigger tear when compared to the right one. So I was unable to move properly. I was unable to do my flies, maybe the chest press, wherever the shoulders are active, pretty much on the upper body, you can say that, because of the rotatory,
rotator cuff, yeah.
cuffs and the biceps tendonitis.
Yeah.
I don't know what it does.
You had a bicep tendonitis.
Yes, so I'm still I have it, but not too much right now because of the chiropractor as well as the physiotherapy, which I've been going from 3 to 4 months. It's improved a lot, to be honest.
Right.
But before, I used to not able to come my properly. I have to do something like a proper stretch or something, and then you give a double bicep pose or something like that before. But now I'm able to do it, but still I feel the pain, like a twitch kind of thing over here. Yeah. So it's not too. If I give a rating of a 10 ratings, I can say a 2 to 3 right now. Before it was right around a 7 to 8. So
Gotcha.
So yeah, so I still feel the pain around 3 to 4, maybe 2 to 3. So how should I eliminate that pain as well?
Right. So each person's going to have a different sort of tolerance, right? And no 2 injuries are the same. Even if 2 people have the same rotator cuff tear, everyone's anatomy is different. They might feel pain at a slightly different angle or have different tolerance. So I think you did all the right things in terms of going to initial physiotherapy or chiropractic to work on the specific issue. So what I do is I help clients train around those issues and also optimize their workouts so that they don't keep aggravating themselves. So perhaps I'll ask you, were you used to doing heavy overhead pressing, heavy bench pressing? Was that most of, okay. So not to say you can never do that stuff again. I think that's a long-term goal to get back to. But one of the things I do with my clients is finding ways to make lighter weights feel heavier. So how can, I might have mentioned this in the beginning, how can we stimulate the muscles but not tear up the joints in the process?
Okay.
So, I mean, eccentrics are going to be great, isometrics. So eccentrics, right, where you really slow down the negative. So
Holds,
isometrics hold in the bottom or hold at the top. So how can you manipulate the tempo with lighter weight to still get, muscular damage to help with hypertrophy, but also maintain muscle? Because the worst thing I think people do, and it's not their fault, is they have a shoulder injury or a knee injury, and I've seen people with knee injuries or ankle injuries, and I'll chat with them in the DMs, really sorry to hear that. How long's the knee been bothering you? Oh, 6 to 10 months. I used to be so consistent with working out, but I had to stop because of my knee, and I'll kind of throw them a curveball. I'll send them, gotcha, that's totally understandable. What about are you doing for upper body though? And there's this moment of, oh, I haven't been training upper body. I stopped doing everything. So it's okay, well, your issue's down here. Why did you let this go as well? Right? So that's kind of where, because ideally, there is a time, I shouldn't say this too abruptly, but unless you're in a cast, you should never be completely resting. Right? Because
I do agree, because I had the on the upper side, everything is shoulder is connected to your upper body, right? If you want to do biceps, I used to get the pain, and if I do the shoulders, everything, I used to feel the pain over here. It was so headache for me. I was dealing with this pain for like almost like 1 year of pain. When I went to the chiropractor and this thing, they told me to stop the upper body, but at least you continue with your, the cardio, maybe the abs.
Cardio, abs, legs, yeah.
That has an advantage because we both were doing bulking, to be honest.
Right.
At the right of the bulking, I think so.
I think you got a tear.
Yeah, I got my tear, and he had a little bit of minus into him as well. And after that, we were in the plan of cutting our, we were in the cutting goal. And since then, I took that as an advantage of eliminating my upper body, not too much, but
whatever's painful. Obviously, whatever's
and
painful.
Cardio and abs into my consideration so that I can at least go my, my physical activity, making sure that I'm not sitting at home. and took that as an advantage.
Yeah, you always have to adapt because I saw this a lot with people that were injured at work, even though they weren't gym people that did the whole bulking cutting thing. They might have been active around their house, basic life task, right? They cut the lawn, they shoveled the snow, they did the chores, and then they have this injury, and a lot of the times it's more common with men because they're used to being the man around the house, and now they're like, I feel like I'm not a man anymore because like my wife has to help me with this, and I can't do my job or my responsibilities because everything hurts, because they rested forever and ever after their back or their shoulder pain happened, let's say. And then as we get beyond 3 months, 6 months, up to a year, they've had almost system-wide deconditioning in their body. So now their legs are weaker, even though it was just a shoulder. Their cardio's down, everything's affected. And because they didn't necessarily work around that in the beginning, they did complete rest rather than just rest for that shoulder that was in a sling or the knee, for example, right? So unless you're in a cast, I always say, like, even if you can't really walk and you have access to an arm bike, do the arm bike. Right, and I don't think he's the best person for everybody, but David Goggins, everybody knows who he is.
Yeah, of course.
I like him.
I was gonna say earlier on David Goggins, his mindset was I killed my old self every time he had to push himself through 10, 20, 30 mile runs, right? His mindset was always, because his old self was fat, 200, 240,
300 pounds, I think.
Yeah, he was pretty, I've seen a picture of him, he was pretty fat, and how he just defeated, so he's always running against himself, he's always fighting against, and his mindset is always, I killed my old self, so it's pretty.
So I think there's always somebody out there that has a big platform that is for some people, maybe not for others. But what I like, what he talks about is like just not having excuses, because we get it sucks. You hurt your knee, you hurt your shoulder, you like to bench press or whatever, but there's still so many things you can do. And I've had people say, no, you don't understand, like my knee hurts with like anything, any basic lunge, any whatever. Like I'm like, okay, like you're telling me you can't do TKEs, like terminal knee extensions. You can't put a band around a rack, put your knee in and just do a little bit of extensions and get blood flow in the knee. You can't do that. Of course you can, right? So his whole thing, one of his quotes was like, oh, you don't have access to a gym. If you have a floor, you have a gym. So kind of that same mindset of like not looking at what you can't do, but looking at, I have a floor here, I have a band, what can I do with this? Until I'm able to do XYZ again that I like. That's really where I try to meet people at, because I see a lot of people, they use, my injury, I don't want to say as excuses because they're very real things.
They're valid, They're valid excuses.
But they use it as like, okay, I'm going to continue going down this path. Because what happens, people say, oh, my knee pain caused my weight gain. Did it really? Yeah. Was it the knee pain, or was it the fact that you felt demotivated and you decided that, I was super good with my walks, but I'm pissed off about my knee. Now I can only do 10 minutes and there's no point going. Or what's the point? I'm just going to order pizza now because I can't do my full workout. So what's the point of meal prepping? And then you just get in this vicious cycle. So your knee pain was the cascade to leading you down, getting off all your good habits of, walking, nutrition, sleep, all that stuff, which that added and caused your weight gain, not the knee itself, right? So that's sort of the whole picture of how that happens. But I would just say, I definitely adapt. But in terms of specific training styles, one thing I learned from, I don't know if you guys know Joe DeFranco, a very popular strength coach in the US. I learned a lot of my training techniques and joint friendly training from him, and Jim Smith as well, who he works with. So I'm actually in their program right now. I do workouts under their Forever Strong program just to learn more, but also one thing, if you're a trainer or coach, you don't want to write your own workouts. That's one thing I learned. So one of the things they talk about is always having a 2-to-1 ratio of pulling to pushing. So particularly with the scapula, right? Like making sure you're having at least a 2-to-1 from rowing, getting that retraction as opposed to that protraction with things like bench press, chest press, shoulder press. Because the thing about our lives, like we're always leaning forward, we're always in that protraction. So in your training, making sure you're offsetting that is one thing as well to try. And then also, if you're somebody that loves the barbell, cycling that out of your training has been a game changer, not only for me, but my clients. Yes, I use the barbell with some clients, but not every client. If you think about it, if somebody doesn't have a goal of being a power lifter, they're a mom or they're a dad, they work a corporate job, why does it really matter if they have to do barbell bench press over dumbbells or an incline with a Bosu ball on the bench so they can get some scapular retraction? Like, does it really matter if they're still getting 8 to 12 reps or 3 to 6 reps, they're challenging their muscles? Like, I've never thought that they've needed to do a particular exercise. I've never been married to exercises that this is the one you have to do because the science says this one has more muscle activation. Like, who really cares, right? The science sometimes doesn't account for people's everyday lives and their situations, or that when they're in this position, a bench press hurts them, but if they can tuck their elbows and turn their palms forward, it doesn't. So that's a better variation for them. Because you'll see a lot of 20-year-olds on TikTok being like, oh, when I see people do this in the gym, I just laugh. It's such an suboptimal. Nobody cares, right? Like, do what works for you, what feels better. Like, as long as you're sticking within movement patterns, there's so many different exercise variations. There's never an exercise that is always going to be the best for everybody. That's not a thing. So.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. You kind of targeted generically because the 3 questions was going to be lower back, knee, and then shoulder.
So I guess we touched on shoulder.
Yeah, we touched on shoulder. So lower back, maybe kind of pivoted, so it's not really the same answer. But for lower back, what exercises would be probably the worst offenders, right?
Worst offenders?
And maybe something to avoid. And if, let's say, I'll give you an example. Let's say deadlift, avoid it, do what? RDLs instead, or?
I think people should be deadlifting if they have back pain. Now some people might think that's a little controversial, but deadlifts can be great for improving low back pain if done correctly. But obviously if it hurts, let's see what range doesn't hurt. Can we start on blocks instead? Maybe if regular deadlift hurts, just sumo. Does that feel better if your torso is at a different angle? If you lower the weight, can you do it pain-free and then build back up from there? RDLs are another one, but you don't necessarily get the knee extension with it. So you got to do something else for quads instead. The thing about RDLs is, yes, they're less load. Maybe if it's a compressive issue on the back, they would feel better. But if the form's done wrong, then it's almost worse. They're surrounding their back. So I would say, like for deadlift, I think deadlifts, because that's a life task, picking something up off the ground. How can you modify it in the short term until you can get back to doing it regularly in the long term, right? But even just doing like a barbell with low weight and getting blood flow to the back can help as well, rather than just not avoiding it completely. So modify the deadlift if you have back pain, if you have pain with like heavy deadlifts. Likely the biggest thing is like lowering the weight, and it might be a bit of an ego check for some guys, but if it hurts, lower the weight until it doesn't hurt and start there. Whether that's one plate or whatever the case may be, bumper plates, that's how you got to build back up. But I wouldn't look to eliminate deadlifts. In terms of like aggravators, I would look at core stuff that is like flexion based, side bending. Look at training your core more from a stability standpoint. So, there's 3 anti-movement patterns, right? Anti-extension, anti-lateral flexion, anti-rotation. So planks, dead bugs would be anti-extension movements that more brace the core rather than just flexing it endlessly. So lateral flexion, instead of doing like side bends with weights, side plank variations.
Do the wood chopper maybe.
Wood chopper, that might be more rotation though, if I think about it.
Okay. Yeah.
Perhaps. Yeah.
I'm thinking more of leaks when you said.
Side plank variations, farmer's walk, suitcase carries, because you're trying to resist bending, right? You're bracing, and then anti-rotation is like pal-off press variations, even bird dog, chops perhaps as well. Not where you're rotating, but where you're bracing. Like start there, and then once you feel okay, you can throw back in some of those, crunches. what do they call these bicycles? Knee to elbows, things like that. But if your back hurts, I would cut out the flexion, especially if it's loaded, like loaded core, weighted ab crunches. If your back hurts, like just stop.
Okay.
That would not be one I'd recommend. Okay. Focus more on bracing for the back. And squats, squatting is similar to deadlifts in that it's like a life skill. Do it if it's pain-free. Can you squat to a box pain-free? Can you squat to a bench? A lot of the times if people just lower their weight on squats, it's an ego check, similar to deadlifts, but if you can do that pain-free, start there, get blood flow to the muscles in the back, do that, is what I would say.
So you would do, let's say, if you are able to do 4 or 5 on squats, right? But you still get pain. You can go down to 300s, maybe the 250s.
Exactly.
Are you doing more reps to compensate, or just slower or a combination of everything?
Yeah, you can do more reps. I always say for those exercises, even if you're feeling good, I don't recommend testing your strength that often. Like going to max. Always try to keep about a rep or 2 in the tank, just so you don't beat your body up, but also to touch on what we said at the beginning, like your nervous system doesn't get fried. Yeah. Right? Because you're always digging this hole of fatigue you got to come out of, right? So if you're testing your strength every single day, you might recover this much. You test your strength again, you dig a deeper hole. So I've mentioned on a few of my posts, like with isolation stuff, absolutely go to failure, get as much blood in the muscle as possible, more of that pump style training, but with heavy squats, deadlifts, bench press, to save your joints in the long run. Keep a rep or 2 in the tank, maybe once a month or once a cycle of training, you test your strength, but you're not doing that every single time. Yeah. So if it feels easy and it's pain-free, if 8 reps is like a 7 or 8 on the RPE scale, then 8 reps is cool. Right?
Yep.
That's what I would say for that.
Yeah. Who's the one who made RPE, the Canadian? I forgot his name.
Oh gosh.
RPE. Wonderful guy.
I should know, but
forgot his name.
Don't look at me.
Man, I forgot his name.
You look it up after.
Yeah, I'm gonna remember it. The nice guy.
Maybe in the part 2.
Yeah. I'm gonna look at it in between. All right, so that's it for part 1.
Yes, I did.